Hello everyone. It's Sunday. I'm still in bed in my pajamas because, why not? Um, I wanted to talk to you about a few things today. Um, it's been really quiet from Otherworld recently, and that's always really difficult. So I wanted to talk to you about the importance of fallow periods, because when it's quiet, that's a really important time to be understanding that it's quiet for a reason and that you need to transmute that. And what I felt in the quiet when, there was not many messages coming in from Otherworld or whatever was a grief. I just felt really sad, you know, even if I wasn't connecting to what was going on in the world or anything, it was almost like I needed to process a sort of general grief. There was a sadness in in humanity in a way. It was like a communal grief that I felt like I was processing, and Otherworld was very quiet, and I had no option but to sit with myself and think about how I felt, because there was no other input. There was no spirit guide input. There was no Otherworld input. And whenever that happens, I think when you get messages from Otherworld, normally you think, oh my God, it's all stopped. Oh, that's it. They're not speaking to me anymore. I think that's a natural reaction. And that was certainly, my reaction years ago when this all first started, when I had quiet periods. But now I understand the importance of those periods. And even though they're still uncomfortable, I sit in them knowing that they've been given to me for a reason. So if that's happening to you, don't worry. You're obviously needing to transmute something, or they're trying to highlight something that you need to consider within yourself. That if they take away all other stimuli, you have no option but to look at. But notwithstanding that, I now have a message from Otherworld, however, because I was in meditation this morning, which is why I'm still sitting in my pajamas. And I had the Morrigan and Gwyn and Arthur Pendragon all come in one after the other after this fallow period, with quite brief messages, but almost reassurance. So, and I guess because there's so much going on in the world, people are, you know, feeling a lot of feelings. So I quickly wrote them down in my terrible handwriting because I was still deep in meditation when I was trying to write it. So I'm going to tell you what they said. So I'm just going to grab my notebook. I still look half asleep from it all. So the Morrigan came in first, and it was Bae from the Morrigan. Now she for me is she's the goddess of warning for me, but also of abundance and feast and celebration. She's the most jovial, I find, of the Morrigan sisters. And she said, hold fast. They will all destroy each other. The darkness will consume itself. Do not concern yourself with it. So that's the message from the Morrigan today. And then I've put it on my right hand side and I'm left-handed, so finding it didn't think that through, did I? Um, right, okay. And then Gwyn ap Nuith came in and he said, everyone in the world is a reflection of you. Everyone in your reality is a reflection of you, for you. I am you. They are you. They are all you. He said, sit down this morning and write down the names of every single person you know or in the world, famous people, political figures, whatever, who triggers you. Not just in a negative way, but in a positive way. Who he gave examples of, who makes you feel vulnerable, who makes you feel angry, who makes you feel admiration. I want to be like that person because they this. Write down their names. Everybody, everybody who comes into your mind. For the biggest thing, like, oh my God, that person makes me feel so enraged because, and I really like that singer because she or he is, whatever. He said, write down their names, even if you don't know why they trigger you. It might be easier to write down, world figures because it's more obvious they trigger a more visceral reaction. But he said also consider people within your life that irritate you. Someone in your workplace because they talk too much or they're loud or anything, right? Literally everyone, like brainstorm it. This is what Gwyn said. And then he said, sit with this list. Just sit with it and look at it. And then from each person, draw a line like a spider graph of more brainstorming. And ask yourself how that person, go through them one by one. How does that person make me feel? And then write the emotion or the sensation that that person makes you feel. Then Gwyn said, do it again, but do a spider graph from that person using your instinct, your gut, your first reaction. Why does that person make you feel like that? And he said, ask yourself why that's your reaction to them. What about that reasoning, that feeling that they raise in you, what do you need to embody that can encourage those qualities in yourself? The positive ones, obviously, not the bad ones. And then in the bad ones, he wants you to consider why those things are triggering for you. What in yourself do you need to confront that about those things? What is it? Do you hold trauma around those things? Did other people make you feel that way? Are you afraid of those qualities in yourself? And this is an exercise that Gwyn wants us all to sit down and do today. In the quiet, he says. He just said in the quiet. He doesn't want any distraction. He wants you to focus on this. And he said, what decisions in your life can you take differently that would make you feel he says more safe or less vulnerable or happier? Do you need to say no more often? Do you need to avoid certain people? Do you need to do any work around yourself where you are being disingenuous or you are denying parts of yourself? And he said, going through this list of people, of all the people that trigger you, that you know, and in the world, he said, doing this exercise will help you realize things you need to process or actions you need to take, micro actions, he's saying, in the moment, living in the present, where you're faced with a decision of why you are making those decisions and being more authentic, he's saying. He says this is a really important exercise for everybody to do today. Because everybody is a reflection of you in the world. They're all you, he's saying. Your soul has built this experience for you to learn from. And he's saying, learn from it. And doing this exercise will help you, apparently. Do exactly that and face what you need to face about yourself and make changes, he's saying. What do they tell you? He said, what do they tell you about who you want to be? What do they teach you about what is important to you? What will you embody now based on what you've learned after you've done this exercise he wants you to do? He's asking you to physically write these things down. How will you make different decisions? What will you now prioritize in your life after you've done this exercise? What have you learned about yourself in this moment? And he says, move forward from how you feel, not from what society tells you you need to be. And this exercise will help you learn about your authentic self, not just about what you admire and want to embody, but also what you're afraid of to confront within yourself and the things that bore you, he's saying. The things that you cannot tolerate, and why can you not tolerate them, and how can you authentically or embody those in your life? Because he's saying that if you do this exercise and you learn these things about yourself and you start to embody that in your everyday decisions, you will change the world, he's saying. Because you will hold a mirror up, not just to yourself, but to others. Because, and he's showing me these ripples on a pond again, and he's showing me atoms vibrating and how when particles and atoms vibrate, they affect the vibration of the particles and atoms next to each other. He's showing me a cat, and he's showing me a cat lying on someone's chest, and how when that cat is purring on someone's chest, they're regulating that person's vibration. But he's also showing me that cat's heart regulating itself to the heartbeat of its person as well. So you're mirroring each other's you're almost co-regulating is what he's saying, co-regulation. So he's asking everyone to do this exercise today in order to co-regulate. Thank you, Gwyn. I'm glad he found the words, because I'm still in meditation brain mode. And then Arthur Pendragon came in. We'll call him that because it's much easier. No one understands when I say Arthur Aedan. They're like, who, what? And Arthur, King Arthur, who I call King Arthur, said, be strong of heart. The key turns now, and it is the key that breaks the lock. So something is happening to do with what the Morrigan said and what Gwyn has asked us to do. All these things are parts, Gwyn's saying, parts that make up the key. So things are happening outside of ourselves that we can't control, but they're also things that ask us to confront who we are. And then Gwyn asks us to do this exercise, which also is part of that process to confront who we are on a micro level as well. So you've got the macro with what the Morrigan's saying, the micro with what Gwyn ap Nuith is asking us to do. And now he's saying to call him Cern, Cernanos. Okay. Thank you, Gwyn. Cernanos, we will do that. He's showing me the image of Cernanos with the antlers and holding the torque of kingship and leadership and holding the snake of wisdom with his legs folded in meditation with the stones behind him, the ancestors. There's this sense of completion of all the things, of self-understanding, of self-reflection, co-regulation. There's something really epic happening on a energetic humanity level, but also understanding our place within it. And this is what he's saying, that it's all you. Everything that's happening is for us all, but for you on a personal level as well. Do this exercise that he's said to do. If you can't do it today, do it whenever you've got a minute. But he's saying as soon as you can, as soon as possible. It's really important. And then we've got Arthur saying, and the Morrigan, she's saying hold fast. Arthur's saying be strong of heart. So, they're all saying don't lose faith. Do the work, meditate if you do that, sit in silence if you don't. Gwyn was saying it was really important to sit in silence and to write down what triggers you and what inspires you, the people, and then look at them and look at those emotions and then look at yourself and how you embody that. Can you improve self-improvement, Gwyn's saying? Can you improve how you embody that? Can you reflect on if you embody any of the negative things? Can you live your life differently? Can you make decisions differently? And then Arthur is sort of bringing it all together and saying all those things, all these things on the macro and the micro are forming a key, like a magic key, that I can see them all coming together to sort of manifest this tool, this article of unlocking. But when it turns, it breaks the lock. It doesn't just unlock something. It breaks the wheel, Gwen is saying. So they're saying don't lose heart, don't despair, that what's happening, and they asked me to repost another post today, which I did, because they were talking about this. They was talking about what's happening in ourselves and outside of ourselves is every beginning has an end, every end has a beginning. That's what Gwyn always says. And this is like really important. This is a crossroads, an important moment that will unlock something good. And it may not feel like it, and you may not feel like it. I've just gone this past week or so just feeling really sad and quiet and just spending time with myself and being forced to do that in a way because everything else was silent, even to the extent where things I'd booked in, I couldn't go and do for whatever reason. My car stopped working, physically stopping me keeping busy. I was held still. And this is what the Morrigan said, hold fast. Gwyn said to me in the week, stand still. So we're almost being forced to, physically in some cases, you may have found yourself ill or something that you had to go to bed. We're almost being forced to be silent and listen to ourselves and our feelings and consider them and consider why we feel that way. So do that exercise that Gwyn has recommended, but don't lose faith. Don't lose trust that it's going to be all right. And what's happening within and without is really important. And, the truth is coming within and without. And we'll go forward from that point renewed, Gwyn is saying, and more honest with ourselves. And whatever that forms within you and outside of you, it will break the lock, it will break the wheel. And that can only be a good thing.